Hello, this is Bethany Daly with Get Knit Paint and also Authentic Knitting Board, bringing you the newest edition of our Stitchology series, where we share with you wonderful new stitches you can create on your knitting looms. Make sure to check the information section right below this video for the link to the full post at the KB blog, which contains written instructions and charts to help you along with your new stitch. All right, let's get started. Today, I'm going to show you how to create the slip stitch braid. And that is this. Isn't that pretty? And it looks like it's kind of woven in there. It gets that look by using cables that are worked as a 1/2 stitches. And the one that is worked as the 1/2 is an elongated slip stitch. And that's what gives it its woven look. So let's go ahead and get started on showing you how to do that. And also, just so you know, this the back of this stitch looks like this. So it's not a real impressive back. So I would work this stitch using some kind of project in mind that didn't necessarily feature the back as part of your project as a whole. So let's get started on creating the stitch. Okay, so I've just cast on a few foundation rows to get us started. And as we've done before, the stitches that are pertaining to our repeating stitch pattern are between the markers. And the extra 2 out here are just so we have some foundation stitches to anchor our row. And what we have, let me show you what the chart looks like here too, so that you can get an idea of how to read the chart. Now I've cast on from left to right so that we can start where the row 1 shows to start, and we're going to work this way. The blank squares mean knit stitches, and for us in our stitches that is a U-stitch. So we're going to work 5 U-stitches across, and then we're going to start on row 2 coming from left to right. So let's work those 5 U-stitches across the row. Okay, so we have worked our 2 extra stitches along with our 5 pattern stitches. Now, row 2 on the chart starts over here, and then it has this twirly loop here is the symbol for this chart for E-wrap, and then the blank are for our U-stitch. So we're going to E-wrap 1 and knit 4. So let's do that. So first we have our extra stitch in the front. Now this peg 1, which is actually peg 5 of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, we're going to E-wrap, and then we're going to U-stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our extra stitch here. And that completes row 2. Let's see what row 3 is. It starts here on the right to left, and we're going to go knit 4. And this semicircle on for this chart is a symbol for a slip stitch with the yarn carried behind the peg. So we will knit 4 and slip stitch with the yarn carried behind on peg 5. So we will first do our extra stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and you may have noticed when I did my E-wrap, I did not knit off the stitch. That is intentional. Please don't knit this off for a couple reasons. It helps you keep your place. It kind of makes it like a little place marker of where you are at in your stitch. And also it helps to keep the extra length that you've built into the stitch by E-wrapping it. It keeps it in place to not let it distribute through the rest of the stitches in the row as you do your working of the following rows after the E-wrap. So go ahead and leave that there for now. So the 5th peg that we had E-wrapped is also the peg that we're going to be slipping. So to slip a stitch, all we do is skip it. So we're just going to carry the working yarn behind like that, and then go to right into our extra peg, and we're just going to knit that. All right, so that is row 3. Now, as you see here, there's row 4, 5, 6, and 7. They are blocked off in this pink border. That is because these are actually our repeating stitch rows. The first 3 rows were setup rows to be able to get to these. So you need to start out by doing, these little ones here in order to set up the whole stitches. So let's go ahead and proceed with our first row of the repeating pattern rows on row 4. And it's going to be from right to left. And as it shows here, the first stitch is a semicircle, which is a slip stitch, and then 2 knits, an E-wrap, and then a knit. So let's work that row. So we're going to first do our extra peg. Then we have a slip stitch carrying it behind. And then we do 2 knits. Now, these 2 knits that fall in between the slip stitch and the next E-wrap stitch, they're going to be worked into our cable in the next row. So what we want to do is work these. They're still U stitches, but they're a little bit looser so that we can have an easier time in switching those stitches around. Okay, then we'll E-wrap and then go directly onto our peg 1 of the pattern into a knit, and then our extra knit. All right, that is row 4. Now we start row 5 from right to left, and it is a knit, slip, and then it goes into our 2/1 cable, and that is leaning to the right. Okay, so let's go over that. First, a knit, a slip, and then a right leaning 2/1 or 1/2 cable. So here is our extra. And then we knit, slip on peg 2. Now we're going to work our right leaning 2/1 or 1/2 cable right here on these final 3 pegs of the repeating pattern pegs. Now I've got my cable needle, and we're going to, because it's right leaning, we're going to take these 2 loops on the right first. So whenever it's right leaning, you remove the loops on the right. And of course, the opposite is true. If it's a left leaning, you remove the loops on the left. Okay, so now we get to this one that is our E-wrap peg. We're going to now go ahead and knit that off, remove the loop from the peg, and see how, because we E-wrapped it, it has a twist in it. I want you to untwist that so it doesn't actually carry the twist into your project. So make sure it's untwisted, and then place it over here on peg 3 of your 5 pegs of the repeating pattern. And then you're going to remove the loop that was, let's see, that would have been on peg 4. You're going to move that over here to peg 5. Then remove the loop from peg that you removed from peg 3 and move it over here to peg 4. And we have just now done a right leaning 1/2 cable, and I'm going to just even out those stitches so that they're perfectly formed without one of them being longer than the other. So this, on peg 2, that was a slip stitch. So we're going to go behind, and then we go ahead and knit to complete our cable all the way. Knit those 3 stitches on pegs 3 through 5, and then knit our extra stitch. All right, excellent. So now we are on row 6 of the pattern. From left to right, starts with an E-wrap, knit 2, slip stitch, and knit 1. And remember, see, if you see above here on the chart, that's where we're going to work another 1/2 pattern or cable, and it's a left leaning one this time. And because of that, we want to work these U stitches between the E-wrap and the slips just a little bit more loosely. So let's work that row. So we start with our extra stitch. Okay, now we're on peg 5, which is going to be an E-wrap, and then a knit, knit. Remember, these ones need to be a little looser like this, and then a slip and a knit, and then our extra peg. Now if you see here, it looks a little weird because we have 2 pegs with 2 loops on them, but you can see that this one is an E-wrap, a freshly made E-wrap, but this one is the E-wrap that we did a couple rows ago, but we just haven't knitted off yet. So it just kind of serves as a second way to keep your stitches straight. Okay, especially if you're working a whole long row of them. All right, so now we are on to the final row of the repeating pattern rows, and that is row 7, and it starts with a knit 1, then the 1/2 left cross, and then a slip 1. So let's work that. So we have our extra stitch, then it was a knit 1, and then we go right into that left leaning cross. So we're going, because it's left, we're going to start with the loops, the 2 loops on the left, and put those on our cable needle. And then go ahead and knit off that E-wrap that's been waiting for us. Remove the E-wrap from the peg and untwist it, and then move it to peg 4. Then we're going to move the loop that was on peg 3. Let's see, is that right? Or on peg 4, and we're going to put it onto peg 3. And the loop on peg that was originally on 3, it's going to be now on peg 2. And we're going to even out those stitches and knit them. And then our 1/2 left cross will be complete. And then we slip our previously E-wrapped stitch on peg 5, and then here's our extra stitch. All right, so those are our repeating pattern rows for this stitch. Now, if you were to work this pattern in the round, all you would do is just cast on in a clockwise direction, and then you would read every row from right to left. Okay? Every row. So just pretend that all of your numbers are going up here like this. And you just do it row by row, working everything from right to left. The cables are worked exactly the same as the way I showed you with switching if it's a left cross, you're going to start with putting, this is a left cross. You're going to put your loops on the two left side loops onto your cable needle, then switch it with this single one that's your E-wrap one. For a right one, you're going to take the 2 loops on the right and switch it with the E-wrap loop on the left. Okay? It's very simple. It looks fancy and complicated, but it's really a very simple stitch to do. And I'm happy to share it with you today. Now, there's one other thing that I would like to show you, and that is that you can work this stitch in a multicolor, and it's really neat looking. I have it on my loom here in progress. Now look at that. Isn't that pretty? So it gets woven, and it looks like the elongated stitches that are braided in our cables, they cut into the next pattern or the next color stripe. So it overlaps, and it looks even more woven, honestly. Isn't that pretty? So in order to do that, you would simply change your colors every 2 rows, like this. This is, again, these are our setup rows, and then the ones in the pink square, that's our repeating pattern rows. So you will just set it up like here, and every time you get to your E-wrap row, you're going to, that will be the last row for before your next color change. So you're going to, let me say that a little better. You're going to change colors every time you get to a row that has a cable in it. So that lets your E-wrap that's in the row before extend into your next color. See how that works? Yeah, and it looks very cool. And you can find those charts at the website at the link below in the information. Here's just so you can get another look of that 2-color stitch. So that's where this was our E-wrap, and it's going up into the next row with our cables. So that's where you want to switch your colors. You can do it 2 colors like this, or do multiple colors, really. Just is up to you. All right, well, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoy this new stitch, and I am so excited to see what projects you come up with for this new pattern. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on our newest Stitchology for next month.